Welcome back. I'm high, and so it's time to talk. Um, just kicked in, and behold this new situation. I'm just on the other side of my bed, where the lights actually will shine on me, not over and drown me in shadow. See, it's a journey, and I've learned something. I've also added to the towel on which my laptop stands or sits, and I've added a book so that I guess this newish or development, the jowls, I'm perfectly fine with them, uh, and my neck. I still think I have a really nice neck. Um, and I want to shout out to, of course, you too, Katya, but to Trixie, because once I had the light shining on me, what little wait, it's gonna be a good one. What little makeup I wore or put on was not enough. So I want to let you know that not only did I, and this is all I have. It's like a Nivea. It was at CVS. It was the only like vegan lip balm at CVS that I could find, and it's tinted, which doesn't really do me much help because I wear a mask all the time. But I've been using it, as I'm sure you all can see, on my channel. And when the light is actually shining on me, which it's supposed to do, and which is why the wonderful video to me that I recorded last week would not upload onto YouTube, probably because the quality was too bad. I'm not even going to qualify it by saying probably or perhaps or whatever. It was bad. I was recording at night, and it was too grainy for them, I believe. And that's fine. I've kind of watched it over and again so I can do some highlights of what we all missed last week when I tried for 3 or 4 days to get it to upload and process, and it wouldn't. And then I thought, okay, I'm just going to do another one. So Trixie, I just want to let you know that I thought of you first thing, and I said, what would Trixie do? Because I said, first of all, and I have cream blush Pacifica. It's a vegan cruelty-free brand that I used to buy at not Trader Joe's, at Target, but I don't shop at Target anymore. And I would rather just buy it from Pacifica if I want. But I'm anyway. Looks like I want a Pacifica thing. Oh, anyway, so my blusher, I have a cream blush from Pacifica, which I will use until that damn thing is empty. I know, Trixie, you and Kathy have discussed about, getting every square inch of copies. Like, throw the fucker out and just buy some more. I can't. I live in a poverty mindset, and I just cannot squeeze, even though I hurt my fucking hands, squeeze as much as possible every dollop. Well, dollop sounds like a lot, but every bit of product out of whatever. So anyway, nobody usually ever sees me wear this unless I'm doing a video, and which is new. And what I did, Trixie, is I went and then I rubbed it in, and it still didn't look like anything. But I thought Trixie would have appreciated the effort. And then I got up off my ass, walked over to my little makeup case, and I got more of my green blush, and I put on what looked to be a clown. No offense, Trix, because I think you're beautiful. Clown's worth of blush, which I see the difference. I doubt Trixie nor Katya nor any self-respecting drag queen would think so, but this is me. Though I would love for Trixie to do or any drag queen to do my makeup. Like, I would love for Trixie to do my makeup. to either look like Trixie or Katya. So I look like Katya. Katya's hot. She's beautiful. I mean, Trixie's beautiful too, but Katya, I don't think people respect her makeup skills. Her skin is fucking flawless, and she is beautiful. I remember watching Pit Stop with her and Monet, whom I love too. So many, and I would only know them through Trixie and Katya. So thank you. That was really loud too, but I'm afraid I'm not being loud enough on these videos. So I'm trying not to yell, but also not mumble and be coherent. See how that goes. See, I just did it again. I talk to myself, and then nobody hears what I say. But anyway, so I did I put tinted lip glue on my cheeks. Still felt like it wasn't enough, so I got up and put on more of my pre-blush, and I see the difference. I know, like I said, nobody else would, but I feel better now, especially since now I have that much. This is my fourth video. Only took 4 times for me to say, you could just move to the other side of the bed, and the light will be shining on you, which is the whole purpose of being like on doing a video. You want people to see you. Yeah. Anyway, I am feeling very 70s. I was listening to my soundtrack before starting this video and reapplying makeup. And I heard 3 in a row that just got me so nostalgia. I'm sorry, 70s was a vibe that if you were not a kid in the 70s, you're just never going to understand. And I feel sorry for you, actually. I mean, I had a shitty childhood, but in the 70s, kids spent all their time outside. At least in my privileged suburban neighborhood with my rapist, child abusing father, Alfred Sullivan Perry III. Their dad during the spotlight again. But we spent all our time outside. Like summertime, I don't remember ever going to any camp. Maybe once I went to like a church camp. But I mean, we get up in the morning, I think I used to eat because my dad was healthy. Which, that's not, the food choices is not the problem. But at least I was eating, well, actually I fed most of my dinners to the cat. We had 2 cats, Calico and Cinnamon, and my dad used to, because we lived with him after the divorce, and I'm going to get back all into that too, but he skipped the spice and seasoning aisle at the grocery store, and so we would have things like, and I have a picture of him and my grandmother, his mother, who I feel is complicit in this too, about the whole Vietnam, Vietnam draft evasion by raping my mother. But I have a picture of them. My dad had a big garden, which that's great, except I think in the picture he's spraying Roundup on it, which he's spraying something on it. And just seeing that picture, and I have the pictures on my phone, but it's like a picture of we're talking the pictures with the white rims and the date around it. That's how old this picture is. It's from the 70s, obviously. Early 70s, when we lived on in West Lowell. And seeing the 2 of them, it was like, well, because I know now especially, but even as I was growing older, even when I was young, I knew that he was like her special little boy. And I'm not saying like anything sexual or whatever, but I think she placed upon him golden child status, and and he really thrived in that atmosphere. Let me tell you. In doing that, he used to speak so just. Oh, I think I mentioned this in the first video. He would talk to his parents in such a mean, nasty, disrespectful way. Um, it's really sad because my aunt and his sister ended up marrying a guy very similar to that. Handsome guy, my uncle, and he had a great sense of humor, and he smoked a pipe, the smell of which I do love. Um, but he terrified me because he had such a short temper, like, and he would just, no, I never saw him hit his kids, my cousins. That doesn't mean to say he did, because my dad didn't hit us in front of them either. Um, but he was scary as fuck too, and he would actually talk to my aunt meanly. Yeah, folks. So, and he would always talk to his parents that way, well into, when they were grandparents, he'd still be very impatient with them, very, um, just a dick. He was just a dick to him. He talked to him in a dicky way, and they put up with it until both of them got sick. I don't remember my grandfather as much, his illness, but because I think that was still that was down in Florida, I believe. But as my grandmother's health deteriorated, all of a sudden my dad was very kind to her, and hers was both my grandmothers had either Alzheimer's or dementia, and I don't know what the difference is, except maybe in severity. I don't know, but it's a fucking awful way to live and die. Live. Uh, I'm sure. I don't have to know. I don't have to have experienced it to know that that's a really shitty way to go. But I don't know what I was going to say. I probably have Alzheimer's and or dementia. I think mine is gummy induced, and sometimes that's for the best. Oh, but anyway, so god damn, this all started from me saying I was feeling very 70s. And then we went on to my dad's garden with the unnatural relationship he had with his mother, who showered love upon him, and it turned to, and allowed him to be the person he was, which was a rapist, child abuser, and working for the war machine. And the very war machine he raped my mother to avoid. And anyway, I am still going to be in 70s mood. I'm not going to let that tangent distract me too much from that. Because, like I said, I was listening to music before this and refined makeup. And now we're back from the tangent. Thank you for staying with me. And like I said, I was listening to music, and all of a sudden what comes on is Could Be I'm Falling in Love by the Spinners. So I'm just like jamming out, loving that one. And then the next song was Babe by Styx. And if that is not a 70s childhood song, I don't know what the fuck is. And I was, well, I don't even know if I had a Styx record, but I mean, they were just everywhere. And I loved the song. I loved a lot of their songs. But I don't know if I ever had a Styx. I know my friends did. If I didn't, or my sister may have. No, that was a Journey album. I did have a Journey album. But I mean, you can't have been a child in the 70s unless you were a Mennonite or Amish and live in suburbia, if you did not know. Or maybe even live in suburbia, if you did not know Fade by Styx. And then I was like, all right, 2 songs and that's going to be enough. But then Lady by fucking Little River Band came on. I think they're a deeply underappreciated musical band. Lyrics, voice, the production value, the voices, the harmonies, the musicianship. God damn that! And I love Little River Band. I have probably all of their known songs to me because again, we just listened to the radio when I was a kid. We didn't even have tapes to like make a mixtape at that point, so I didn't have a turntable of my own until I moved in with my mom, and then I was a teenager when I had my first turntable. Now my father had a turntable, and we were allowed to use it, which I did. I was given the double album libretto to Evita, the original Broadway, American Broadway, original Broadway production of Evita with Patti LuPone and Mandy Patinkin. And let's see, that had to be in the 77, 78. So I am baby girl, I'm right here and I love you. I know, I'm going to feed you soon. It's not quite ready. It's not quite time yet. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Excuse me. Let's talk to Kat. She's about to jump off on here. I know, I see you and I love you. And it's been so nice to be here with you today. And tomorrow. You got me all day today and tomorrow. Here she comes. Baby girl. Oh, I can't sing the song. Anyway. And so I sang out loud. Here, I just have to cover up your taggy. Thank you. The fans wanted to see you. And I want a record of me with you. Because I think your mom gets jealous when I ask her if I could have a picture. If she could snap a picture of you and me. She knows how much I love you. We joke about it. So Lady came on by Little River Band. I'm assuming they're in the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by now. I'll have to double check. They should be because they had amazing songs, and it just instantly, the nostalgia was just like, pouring over me. It's wonderful. And so I thought I would mention that. I don't know where I was going with that, except it just put me in a really, it just took me back there. And I'm going to have to get a song, intro music. I'm going to keep this because this is going to be my chapter 3 that hopefully will get uploaded and posted because you can see me, which I'm sure was the problem with the chapter 3 attempt 1. Yeah, first attempt of chapter 3. So hopefully this one will be fine. I'm not getting noise like that because I'm petting the cat. I think what I'm going to do too is when I go into to like edit it, I'm going to put like a background that matches my mood. I probably should stick to the same background, but I don't know. It's my channel. I can do whatever the fuck I want. So, which reminds me, I have been surviving off this quote that I told that I showed to my dear friend, who, funnily, my dear friend and I texted each other this morning, and we actually, you can tell our age. You can tell I'm 55. She was born in January, so she's actually 56 already. I I have like 4 months to go before I do that. Anyway, we get on the subject of colonoscopies and alternatives to colonoscopies, which she thought only included you get this box that you shit in and then you send a UPS or whatever to find out if you had colon cancer. And I had told her that I had gotten that box as well because the research I've done, and most of that includes Dr. Michael Greger. I'll put his link down below. I trust him and his medical expertise very much so. That's how I learned about that you don't have to get a mammogram. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting a mammogram, but he does a series. Well, he does at least a video or two. I think he did a series or something on. I watched it about the pros and cons of getting mammograms, and I just feel because no one in my family that I know of, like I said, I'm no contact with my family for the past, well, my sister since my divorce, really. So that was like 15 years ago. And then, I mean, here and there, probably around the same time I cut off my dad is when I cut off my sister. And only because my sister was in, and is still in, as far as I know, an unhealed state. And it's very hard when you're trying to heal generational trauma and heal yourself, and it's a lifetime process, and it's very hard. Plus, I had other shit going on as well. It's very hard to do that when you're still around people who are not at that stage or aren't even like really cognizant of it. I think my sister and my mom are dissociative, kind of at this point. It's horrible, and I was there. So I mean, and I experienced that myself. So I know exactly what they're going through, and I know exactly how hard it is to ask for help. I mean, I didn't, and let my body slowly start destroying itself for 10 years. And the only thing that got me help and got me to call 911 was worrying about what was going to happen to my cats if I killed myself. My cats, like I said, animals have saved me and always, and they always will, even though that's not we deserve nothing from them. But they freely give themselves to us. Their unconditional compassion and love, and they just accept you, and they're the most self-actualized beings on this planet. They, humans are not, because I don't know of anyone who is I feel like I'm on that journey, which I find very exciting. But at the same time, and I'm not saying that like in an arrogant way, I just feel like there's another world that's possible for us to live on, or to be a part of, or to build together, to grow together. This doesn't have to stay this way. And I know that could come out, think whatever you want of that. But that's just how I'm feeling. I'm feeling, it's so funny because I feel very curmudgeonly and cynical, but I feel like, I'm not supposed to be here anyway. I'm the daughter of a rapist. So I would have been just fine. I was thinking of Katya, and she's like, nope, I'm good as a sperm, I'm like, it's, ready to, I almost said spawn. Be ready to like fertilize this egg. Like, I'm good. And not to make my situation or my mom's and sister's situation, not to diminish that or whatever, but I'm just saying that I think I've always and will always feel like an outsider because I shouldn't be here. Same with my sister. I think neither of us should be here. In a just world, we would have been, well, my sister would have been terminated, and then my mother would have said, "Hey, this guy raped me," and they would believe her, and he would have hopefully faced serious consequences for that, and my mother would seek help and healing um, for her trauma, but perhaps, and I think she was is strong enough, she just doesn't know it like I didn't know it, strong enough to build uh, her life, to be her authentic self, who I never really got to see. She had built up so many walls just to defend herself against my dad throughout, even after the divorce. He treated my mother abominably. Um, and because she was still so traumatized and not even in any sort, this is the 70s, people, 70s, 80s, 90s, it still goes on. But, and she uh, remarried very quickly after divorce. Because I think, and I can totally understand this, I believe my mother, even though she worked full-time job, as long as, I was cognizant, uh, at least until we were in grade school. And, but she did, I don't believe she worked while she was married to my father, but after my father, and she divorced, she worked full time up until her retirement. Very strong work ethic, and I think she got that from her mother because her mother was deserted by her husband and my mother's biological father while she was pregnant, and this was back in the 40s. And so imagine that being, I mean, at least they were married, but still, I'm sure there was stigma, especially in a small town in upstate New York. You know, oh, she was left, it was a small town, and so now she's on her own, trying to raise a daughter, a baby who hadn't even been born. So she had to go through that pregnancy on her own. Fortunately, I believe she had the help of her brothers, who, and I don't know if her father was still alive. My grandfather on that side was still alive, um, or great grandfather was still alive, but they had a small dairy and farmhouse with a small dairy, and I think she went and lived at the farmhouse, and I think that's part of the reason why my mom was so close to her her eldest brother, my Uncle Tom, who, because he was the eldest when my great grandfather uh, died, he was just expected to take over the farm. And I definitely got the impression as I got older that he did not enjoy that work. But that's what you did back then. This was. But anyway, that was a safe haven for my mother and my grandmother, my mother's mother, because they had the support of their family. At least she had a place to live until the baby was born, and then she worked. So it was just her and my mom, but then she also had, thank goodness, uh, my nana's brother, eldest brother. There were two brothers. Charlie was more into, his wife. He had wife and kids, so he was more of a townie, I guess you would say. I didn't know him nearly as well as my Uncle Tom, and I can understand why my mother loved him so much. I loved him. Everybody loved Uncle Tom. Even my father, after the divorce, would stop by the farm to talk to Uncle Tom. Probably like, I find that very weird. Um, it On the one hand, I can understand why anyone would want to stop by and talk to my Uncle Tom because he was a good soul. Um, but it's just crazy that out of all the people that would come visit him, my rapist, child abusing father would. And because, of course, my uncle knew, and I'm talking about my great uncle, my nana's brother, who took over the farm. He knew. They all knew who my dad was and what he was. And that my dad would still, and I think he brought his kids with my stepmother, my half siblings. I think he brought them there. I'm not sure about that. Um, I don't know how he could not know that my Uncle Tom didn't know who and what he was. But to tell you about the grace that my Uncle Tom had, and yes, he was a dairy farmer, and I know how this was a very small dairy farm. Um, but I know even, like I said, he didn't enjoy it, and I don't know if subconsciously that was because he just. But I mean, farming is very hard work. Let's put it that way. It's very hard. And I'm sure he may have had other things he would rather have done in his life. But, familial, is that what that is? Familial duty was kind of a thing back then, or at least in their family it was. And so he took over the farm. So I know how, and I've seen films about how industrial dairies. But and I'm not saying anything against my Uncle Tom. He had no, he had no formal education. He was going to be a farmer. That's just what it was going to be. And he was a smart guy, too, very smart guy. Um, and I think that's why people just, including my father, because I think the gall of him. But like I said, I give my uncle. My uncle was never. He was too well mannered. A farmer, this small dairy farmer in upstate New York, was too dignified and well mannered to put on any sort of display or make anyone feel unwelcome, even if in any situation. I find that very moving and touching. And I'd never really even thought about that before. But, I mean, I knew how much I loved my Uncle Tom. And like I said, everybody did. But just, wow, it was the first time I really thought about that. First, that my dad would have the gall to show up there. Be like, hey, But, um, but he did. And my Uncle Tom treated it as the gentleman he was. He handled it as the gentleman he was. Johnston. And yeah, so I don't know where I was going. But I have wonderful memories from that farm too, along with I used to see all of the calves. It was probably there were probably 30 cows, peppers, uh, total. So it was a very small operation. And as far as treatment goes, you know, dairy, any dairy farming to me is cool. You're taking the breast milk of another creature's, another being, another sentient being's breast milk for yourself when it should be going to their calf that they were forcibly impregnated to bear and then have stripped from them. That's what a dairy does. Doesn't matter what the size is, and of course on the industrial size, it's just that much horror multiplied. But it's it's not pretty, and they're not happy. But I never saw my uncle or great uncle do more than like slap him on the ass to get him into the. And as far as dairy farms go, that's not, you know, that's pretty tame. Except that he had like a corral. There were two steps at one end of the barn, the end of the barn that went out to the fields, because these cows actually did spend all day out in the fields, which is, now people want their organic milk, um, dairy milk that's humane. It's not humane. Um, you can do the research. I have done the research. You're taking away another being's breast milk, and the costs of that to our planet, um, and to our food supply, because most of these monocrops we're growing is feeding these animals whose secretions we're taking, which we don't even need, which aren't even meant for us. Yeah, that's my vegan rant for the day. Um, I don't get to do it very often, and I don't do it very often. When I lived in DC, because most of the animal rights organizations are headquartered there, I actually, and it was a Klonopin too that helped, because, before healing, I would have never had the courage to, like, attend a rally or hand out flyers. Hell, I would go up to people, I would pass people. It amazes me still. I would pass people who were smoking cigarettes. So this was like the first 3 or 4 years after my divorce. Probably, yeah, 3 or 4 years after my divorce. No, a divorce was over in 2012. So this was like, uh, yeah, about 1 to 2 years after that, something like that. Anyway, I would pass by people who were smoking, and I'd say, "Please stop smoking." I said I had lung cancer. Of course, they didn't tell me. It didn't turn out to be lung cancer, but I had been diagnosed with lung cancer. The surgeon said he was 99.9% sure that it was, not realizing or remembering or thinking about the fact that I have rheumatoid arthritis and that it could be rheumatoid nodules. And I don't even know if they did a biopsy. When you're healing from CPTSD, and then also uh, now seeing doctors for, to get your dentures, to get my RA, which I knew I had 10 years prior, but now is officially diagnosed, so start getting that shit under control. Learning to regulate my brain, which has been damaged by the trauma. I was, and trying to take, my cats were my kids, and trying to give them a safe, happy home too. It was a lot. And because I was the only one of and I don't have a huge circle of friends anyway, but like my other, well, like I said, my female friends are married, and that's wonderful. And have kids. And here I'm divorced and plagued with physical and emotional health issues. And they did their best, and they do their best. Um, um, I'm very fortunate in my friendships. Um, and there were times that they were like angels, like I didn't know they like did stuff behind the scenes, or they would go out of their way, which to someone with CPTSD, for someone to actually go out of their way, or you feel as if they're going out of their way to do something nice to you, or nice for you. It never ceases to amaze me. I'm getting better at that. And I know I should be looking at the camera, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like I'm looking out at you all this way more than, I don't know. It's weird staring at a little hole on the top of my laptop screen instead of just staring down. Plus, I can check out my hair. I never thought that bad, but that's pretty good. I don't, as you can tell, I'm very basic. Minimalist life, so you know that I'm not. But yeah, everyone checks out their hair once in a while. Especially it's windy in the city, and when I walk to work, sometimes I have to make sure it's not all over the place. But that's anyway. Let's see how far we got along. Okay, so we're doing all right. Oh, I didn't want to forget the things that I had mentioned in the previous video. So again, this is the brand I use, off hours, Serenity. The link down below for that, and the place where I get it, Housing Works Cannabis Company. I had said that I wouldn't recommend books until I had finished reading them and liked it. I actually liked it, but when I saw this book, I was like, I have to get this, borrow this, and so I did, and I've started reading it, and it's very good. I mean, the title, What is Wrong with Men? Patriarchy, the Crisis of Masculinity, and now, of course, Michael Douglas films explain everything, by Jessica Crispin. And I remember telling a friend at work, or showing him this. I said, look, I just got this out. And he's like, oh, I just heard her on a podcast, and it sounded like a really interesting book, so let me know. I'm very fortunate. I have some enlightened, real men as friends. Think what you want about that, but I feel, first of all, he's vegan, so we have that in common. We can discuss, he and I are interested about the same sort of things. And I know when I became vegan, and it wasn't like a means to an end, it's just another way for me to express all this boundless compassion I had buried down under all the hate and I'll put the book down now. The hate and the disgust and disdain and fear that, you know, buried it all. And I think that the climate helped a lot with that too. But seriously, it's the only med that ever gave me any semblance of a life. It allowed me to find or start finding finding my like authentic self. That can sound new agey to you. I don't read new agey books. The Tao Te Ching is the only. That, and I'll read like a Tick.com? I'll read his books. I enjoy those, and I also saw this little one, and I can get into her too. Plus, I felt in the need. I'm a compassionate person, but I don't know if it's compassion fatigue. It's funny because I'm reading a book where there's like, is it really fashion? Compassion fatigue, or are we all just so, we're so unhappy and so unfulfilled, and everything just, the guy who wrote what I'm trying to describe said it so much better. But for right now, for convenience sake, I'll call it compassion fatigue. I have trauma has given me, and resulting CPTSD has given me abundant empathy to the point where I and it's also my triggers too. I'm like hyper vigilant, aware of my surroundings. It's gotten better. Funnily enough, in New York City, isn't that crazy? But I feel I've never felt, even at nighttime. But of course, it's a huge city, so there's usually always going to be. I mean, there's usually going to be people around. Especially, I'm very fortunate in the neighborhood in which I live, and where I work. So I think like 10 blocks up, some guy shot 4 people a few weeks ago. So a reminder that the city is not safe. But for some reason, I think it's part of my. I just like I said, I shouldn't be here, and I've decided while I'm still here, I want to live a value-driven life. I want to live all these things that have been inside me all this time that I've never been able to help grow because they were so buried underneath all the trauma and fear. We're all so scared. And that was a quote too. I wanted to. And she was a friend. Well, she was born in Indonesia, which is now Vietnam. The author of this quote, and the quote comes from. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I was telling you that my friend and I were discussing alternatives to colonoscopies this morning. Oh God. Oh God. Oh, and before before I forget to, I wanted to mention that I woke up this morning and immediately remembered that I dreamt that Donald Trump had a heart attack at some event I happened to be at, and he fell onto a table of blacks and ribs. I'm a very intuitive person. Well, I if that had ever if that did happen, I would not be really surprised because he's an extremely unhealthy person. We know mentally, or I know mentally and emotionally, he is unwell. But physically, the inflammation that man has, uh, when your skin is that red, that's not just from like playing 18 rounds of golf every day. That is system wide inflammation. That is your body saying, I am on fire. And so there's a reason he does not show his doctors um, his physical fitness test because I'm sure he failed it miserably, just like I'm not going to say anymore, but I'm sure he failed it miserably because he's obese. I think he would be considered obese. He definitely has front gut, which is the worst place to have fat. I'm sure he takes cholesterol medication. I'm sure he takes blood pressure medication. I'm sure he takes Viagra or whatever the fuck they use nowadays, or maybe got a penile implant because I doubt that man could get it up with all the inflammation he has in his body. Um, I could be totally wrong, but he is. He not only is a very unhealthy individual, he looks it. When you see someone, he's just that red is in that is that is that is inflammation. That's a body on fire, and he could go on a whole food plant based diet, and I would love to be able to like say because I would love to see what would happen to him if he honestly and openly was or was made to eat a vegan diet, even better, a whole food plant-based diet. And in the position he's in, he can get a chef to make the most delicious food he'll ever eat. And I would love to see, first of all, the difference in his physical and, even more importantly, emotional health and mental health. Seriously. It was transformative for me. And I don't want to be a dictator, or I don't want to ban same-sex marriages. You know what I'm saying? But I was still, me being the way I was certainly hurting myself. And it certainly wasn't making anybody around me, you know, happy to, I'm sure, really, I had my dear friends who understood what I was going through. But still, I was on my own a lot. I can't remember where I was going. But anyway, I just thought it not funny, but it's just strange that I would have that dream and wake up having just remembered that dream. I also think in that dream that some really attractive actorish kind of guy, I don't know, but he fancied me. And we were just kind of doing that rom-com flirty, but I mean, it seemed deeper than that. Very strange, because I don't plan on ever dating again, and I haven't had any offers to date. It's hard. It's hard to do so when I sit in my bedroom most of the time when I'm not at work. But I'm a lot to take on. I consider myself. I'm intense. I'm like an extrovert introvert. Like if I feel a real connection to you, which is why I have so few real friends, then I really I enjoy that. It still takes a lot out of me, but I don't do small talk. I can't. I can't. I have to at times, but I am. I just. I. I feel like I'm at the age where small talk is just so unnecessary. Um, and I'm sure it comes from the fact that we're so afraid of silence and just not saying anything, or just agreeing that we don't have anything to say to each other. So let's move on, shall we? And we could be very polite about it, just be like, I'm moving on, no, no offense, energies just don't vibe. But I think we're also, and I'm just as guilty of that. I can be just as guilty of that too. In fact, I do have a hard time with silence myself. But that's why I stay at home. I mean, a silence with another person. I feel like I still always feel this urge to fill the void. But when I'm on my own, I don't have to deal with that. And Lily Bell doesn't care if I talk to her or not. As long as I pet her and feed her. I know it's a little past your dinner time, baby girl. It's coming, okay? You're being so good about it. I just want to finish this up, wherever this leads. But yeah, so I wish I could say I could speak to even my closest friends this way. I think there's only one, maybe two people I can be this way with. That I feel like I can be my authentic self. And yeah, I think the gummies help me be more authentic, because they uninhibit me. Is that a word? That doesn't even sound right. It allows me to relax enough where I don't feel so scared to be vulnerable. Um, and you have to be vulnerable to do a memoir, whether you write it or say it, or sing it. Maybe I can make my memoir into a musical. And I thought of a great Trixie, this goes out to you, and Katya too. Because I was going through like I was thinking of my vision board kind of in my head, even though I have one on Pinterest too, if you're ever interested. But I was like listing like a dream life for me. And the first thing I wrote was modest ranch house in an area I'm familiar with. That would be my dream. And then I thought, modest ranch house would make a great track name. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage. Modest ranch house. No? I just thought, and then I could be very, Trixie-ish, right? That kind of goes with, 50s, 60s vibe, except I don't have any vision beyond that. But, if I could take on Modest Mouse, there's a band called Modest Mouse. I can't remember the song they sang, though I'm sure I would recognize it if I heard it. But kind of like a take off on that. Modest Ranch House. I like it. Oh, and I don't know if I ever mentioned I have an ancestor whose name would also make a great drag name, Trixie Natia, because I know you're watching this. Through 23andMe, no, through Ancestry, through my friend who's into Ancestry, is able to look up some of my family stuff too, discovered that I have an ancestor whose name was Blandina Van Vliet. Dina for short. And I just think that's such a read too. It's like she's reading herself. That is so Blandina. You are too Blandina. I mean, it's a verb. It's a whole way of being. I guess you could go Dina Van Vliet, but Blandina I just like it. So if I were ever to become a drag queen, I would choose. And I don't know. You could do anything with Blandina Van Vliet. You could go anywhere with that. I could go, 18th century colonial or Habsburg family. I don't know what the fuck. And I'm, I could do cabaret type of stuff. I mean, it sounds like that, doesn't it? It did to me. Anyway, I was blown away by that name. And so those are my two choices should I ever become a drag queen. Blandina Van Vliet. And if anybody steals it, like I said, I haven't copyrighted her name. And there could be two Blandina Van Vliets. I have seen people that have some, what I would consider unusual names, and they're not so unusual. There are lots of them. So there's room for two. Or I could be Modest Ranch House. That's a sleeper hit, I think. I think that's a sleeper hit. I still didn't get into stats that I kind of wanted to get into because, this is my memoir and I'm trying to get more into my childhood or start, telling the story. And, but my present day and my past, and I think that's part of CPTSD is like always, it's hard for me to separate them. Because I feel like my past is still with me. And if not always, well, I think it would always be so like brain wise because I mean I can try, I do as much as I can to change, to help the parts of my brain grow that need to grow and the parts that need to shrink through the way I live my life and everything, uh, and who I hang out with and the things I do to try to make this world better. God, I don't know where I was going with this. To be high, and now I've had a silence. But you know, actually, now that I'm high, the silence doesn't seem so bad. Now I take Klonopin, and the silence still gets to me. So I'm just letting you know. Not that I'm giving up the Klonopin. The Klonopin has saved my motherfucking life, and um, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Also, I did weekly therapy, and I did weekly therapy for 3+ years. A wonderful therapist. I was so lucky to have been matched up with this therapist and psychiatrist who was my medicating doctor. She fucking scared me, which someone in her position, I guess, you know, you can't let patients get to you like, I just need this, because these are really, you know, they're benzos. I'm taking benzos, and I know, and so I was very responsible about it because I didn't want to not have them, first of all, but also because I know that they're highly addicted and that I was addicted to them because when I decided, and I think this was after I moved to DC, and DC pharmacists were just giving me shit, even with a prescription. I don't know. I felt like it was going to become a problem, and I guess it was because it was DC and not suburbia that I guess they have to be more suspicious. But I mean, whatever. Anyway, so I thought, you know what? I don't ever want to be in the position where I do not have access to this medication and have to go cold turkey because cold turkey. And yes, I'm going to say stuff like that because I weaned off of it with my psychiatrist's help slowly, and it still sucked, you know. And I was a smoker for 25 years, and the Klonopin, I exchanged cigarettes for Klonopin, and for a while I exchanged Klonopin with other meds that didn't do shit, or didn't do shit, and now that I'm back in a big metropolitan area, um, the prescribing doctor I had, she was just a regular like prescribing nurse doctor. I don't know what the fuck she was, but anyway, I was giving her through my insurance company at the time, and she, even though my therapist and I agreed, my therapist agreed with me. My therapist at the time, that I should be back on Klonopin, but she's not a prescribing doctor. So I went to her. I went to this prescribing nurse doctor, whatever she was, and she refused the Klonopin. You can find you other alternatives. I said I've been on other alternatives, and that's redundant. I've been on all the alternatives, and nothing works. Uh, you know, when you're on other alternatives, when you're on alternatives, and you're suicidal, they're not working. And that's with therapy, that's with eating, and extremely well, because it's easy to eat cheap vegan. I know people are like, but I eat very simply. I have oatmeal for breakfast. I usually have like pasta or beans and rice with seasonings for lunch. I have a green smoothie or a fruit smoothie, and then sometimes I'll have cups of tea, and so you know I I treat my body much better if my 20-year-old self could see me now, and there was some of this me in her, I know there was, and I'll tell the story about. There's so many stories, but this one is running over an hour, so I'll nip it in the bud pretty soon. But and I don't know where I was going with that story either, except to say that maybe that's why my skin glows so much. Don't ever do that again, Lisa. This is why I'm not on TikTok or any of those. But I do have nice skin. I will say that. Not enough makeup, not nearly enough makeup. I understand that too. I'm going to look in the mirror in the bathroom after this and be like, oh my God. And Trixie, I saw your new blushes and they look beautiful, but I have to finish up my blush before I can buy any more. And there's the whole like part right around the inside rim of the bottle. I gotta get through all that first. But I appreciate your love of blush. I have, because I have full cheeks, and I've always had full cheeks, but this is also kind of like, I think this is like prednisone, which I'm lowering my dosage right now, because I hope to get on a biologic to supplement my methotrexate. But just so you know, I went to see my new primary care physician, who is wonderful. I'm very fortunate. She's a wonderful person. Thank you, Dr. G. And I'm very, I felt safe with her. And that's a very important thing to me. And she also seemed sincerely interested in me. Not sexually, but as a patient. And and so I opened up to her. I don't talk, I talk to the screen, but I don't have these deep talks with people very much at all. And so when someone shows the slightest bit of interest in me, I'm like, hey, let's start. Chapter 1. I gave her a very condensed version, but I did tell her that because, as primary care physician, you should say, do you want a mammogram, colonoscopy, or what? I had David Gaten, colonoscopy, what's the other fucking thing? Like a pap smear, whatever. And I've done research on mammograms. I know my mother, and I think my sister does. Jehovah's Witnesses get mammograms. But my mother always had, because I think that's what you were always told, you had to get a mammogram. But I've done some research. Not a doctorate's worth, but I trust Dr. Michael Greger. I'll put his link below. And he has done a series on mammograms and the pros and cons of those. And so I watched those, or read the transcript, and made an informed opinion, or choice, because, not opinion, because it's just my opinion, but choice for myself, because doing that 23andMe, I don't have any breast cancer genes, whatever. I'm not considered high risk, I don't think. I'm not high risk for anything, actually, which tells you something, which is, because I was considered like typical risk for depression, typical risk for, which just means everybody is at risk for these fucking terrible diseases and psychological illnesses and autoimmune diseases and cancer. And ooh, this has gone downhill, and the baby girl sitting on my lap. I think she senses. Oh, anyway, it was a wonderful session speaking with her and getting to know each other. And then I got blood work done. Everybody there at that place, at that office, was wonderful from start to finish. And the bonus was they had a drag book, like an art book on drag, in their patient waiting room. And so I had to take a picture of that and send that to my friend A, who is my fellow Trixie and Katya super fan. And because I was very excited about seeing that there. it's a very inclusive office, or it's just inclusive, I should say. Because inclusive should just mean all inclusive, right? Are we like being so redundant? And see, I'm doing it now because so redundant is redundant. Are we being redundant all the time? And is that redundancy? I'm getting so mind blown right now. But anyway, when she asked me about those tests, I said, you know what? To be honest with you, and this is the first time I've ever told any doctor, and I don't think I've told anyone except like in my journals, that I remember reading or parts of an article with Christina Applegate from Married with Children, who has MS, and I must have skimmed the article or the video or whatever media it was from, but she says at one point, I don't enjoy life anymore. And I felt that 110%. And so I told my doctor that. What was that accent? My dog food. I'm going to keep doing accents. Maybe I can work on those. Anyway, so I told her that. I said, you know what? Unfortunately, being a healthy vegan means that my numbers are all really good, but they're not going to cure my rheumatoid arthritis, and they're not going to cure my CPTSD. And they can keep maybe the harsher symptoms at bay longer. I don't know. I don't trust our healthcare system to be the least bit. And I'm not talking about the doctors. Well, not all the doctors. I've had some very good experiences, like I said, not today, but I saw her this week with my new primary care physician. That's why I really like female doctors. Well, it would stand to reason when your father is who my father was. You don't trust men. You don't feel safe around men. And especially as I started healing, I was like, fuck you. A lot of rage, like I said, there's a lot of rage still in there. But I'm trying to focus it in positive directions. And I need some more lip glue. But before I have lip glue, I have to, I'm just going to take this shirt. I know. This is a high-class establishment. I'm putting some more of this on. Though, I almost kind of stained with it, just rubbing it with a... Oh my God, do I look like a woman in Palm Beach? I feel like that kid, Magda. Oh God, Magda. That was great. I don't look like Magda yet, but I dug her spirit. Her, fuck you-ish. I'm gonna do what I want. And all that stuff. Anyway, and I don't know, I guess I was just afraid. I was always afraid of saying it out loud to somebody else and afraid they're going to be like, oh God, call 911 or whatever. But she wasn't like that. She knows someone with rheumatological issues, and she understood. Or she understood as much as someone who doesn't live with chronic illness and chronic pain can understand. And she's, so far she has shown me that she's an extremely empathetic, caring, compassionate person. So that goes a long way with me. But yeah, I feel like I shouldn't have ever been here. But while I'm here, I could try to do some good. But I don't mind exiting this mortal coil. Because, our healthcare system, I don't believe is going to get any better. It's horrible right now. So the chances of it in the near future or the next 20 years getting any better unless we radically change the way we decide we're going to live life. And I hold out hope for that. Do I think it's going to happen in my lifetime? No. But I can sow some seeds, metaphorically speaking, while I'm here. Tell my stories, and maybe help somebody else out. And that didn't end right, but I'm not going to edit it out. I decided not to do a lot of editing because I thought I'm high. But at the same time, I'm high. Should I be editing some? But that's kind of part of the thing, the stops and starts. You can always, fast forward through it or just not watch it. Like I said, I'm doing what's best for me, though. Like I said, I'm up for doing having sponsors as long as they're from companies and products I use 100% and would gift to someone 100% and support 100%. So, and some of those companies are listed down below. And I also have the two animal sanctuaries that I support. I have their links down below. They're beautiful places, people doing beautiful things, extremely hard work, and they're constantly struggling to keep these animals living their best recovered lives from abuse and neglect and the violence of animal agriculture. And but also, I didn't mention this before, but 3 years after my divorce, or maybe 4 years, I wrote a blog, and I put the blog link down below if you're interested. The WordPress blog. If you're interested in reading, I don't know if I want now. How far did I go on those blogs? But I kept a blog for 3 years. I never made any money or anything off of it. And that wasn't my idea at the time. I just wanted to write because I was healing. I was finally fucking healing. And all the things, this creative energy that had been hidden and buried for so long was just like screaming to come out. And so I wrote this blog, and I'm very proud of it. I had some followers, not a lot. I don't think. I haven't looked at it in a while. I even wrote the only piece of poetry I ever wrote, just because I thought I'm gonna try to write a piece of poetry, because I've never been a big poetry person. I did get into some T.S. Eliot when I was in college, one of the 4 times I was in college, reading The Wasteland, because I'm also a Hopper fan, Edward Hopper's artwork, and reading parts of The Wasteland, in reading some parts of The Wasteland, some of Hopper's art would like pop into my head. I wrote a paper on it. I think I got a B, but it was like I was trying to find some sort of link, however indirect or whatever, between these two artists, T.S. Eliot and Edward Hopper. But of course, they didn't really have to have a connection for them to be seeing this world in a similar way during the same time, because around the same time period. It shouldn't be an impossibility that two people would think or would see the world this way and of course just express it in their art form. You know, they don't have to have that link. And so maybe if my paper focused more on the shared history, like history between them, you know, like the events that went on during their lives, you know, because they were around the same time, you know, they lived around the same time as each other. And now I can't remember if they knew each other. They must have known each other, but I don't know. But anyway, and now I can't remember where I was going to go with that either. But anyway, so yes, I had written a poem there, and so I can't remember what I named the poem, but I actually like it. A current rare. That could be it. Maybe I'll read it out someday. Oh, but I also mentioned, before I go, I'm going to go there soon because this is really long. But I mentioned in my other video that will never be seen, I guess, that another dream of mine would be to perform my classical monologue from The Winter's Tale by Shakespeare. It's Hermione's trial scene monologue. And I'm rusty, but I got the book out of the library, and this is a lovely, you know, I love getting a library book. I mean, like new, and nobody else is fucked with it. And it's just, plus this has, I love how it has like I probably shouldn't do that, but this is the Folger Shakespeare libraries, The Winter's Tale. I got it from the library. But I want to practice it until I'm as good as I think I'm ever going to be at it. And then I want to perform it on my channel. Because it's my channel. So if I want to perform Hermione's trial scene, Felixes, I think it'll help my brain too, because like I said, both grandmothers died of dementia and or Alzheimer's, so it can only help me, plus eat plenty of greens, to learn new shit or relearn shit and perform it. Because nobody asked, but I want to do it because that could be my audition piece for any class. I would love to do Shakespeare. I would love to do Hermione. I would have to work really, 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 really hard, but I would do just about anything to be on the stage again. And I can't do a lot because my body is shit. So, and I have no money. But I would give anything. But what I could do is perform that audition scene because it's a beautiful piece, I think. Beautiful words. Shakespeare. What else are you going to say? Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap it up now. I went longer than I thought I was. And up on tangents, and that's okay too, because I'm high. But yeah, I'm less high now, and I want to enjoy a movie while I'm still somewhat high. So bye. Oh, and like and subscribe. Have a great week, everyone.